We're here.
We're here. What's up?
It's about time. We've been waiting all day.
I know.
Been waiting all day. Super excited. You did a great job in the keynote, by the way.
Oh, thank
Congratulations.
you. I know there were a bunch of questions that came in about Xamarin.Forms 5.
Yeah.
So I hope you have some answers, Dave.
Here we are for it. So why don't we go ahead and kick it off? We don't have much time, and we got a lot of content.
We do.
All right.
All
Take
right.
it away.
This is me. So you might have seen the keynote this morning. It's pretty exciting. Definitely go back and watch it. I'm not going to redo the same demo, but I do want to call out some of the things that we showed there. And I'll flip into my screen in a minute, and we'll show you how to turn those on. So the three things that I want you to know about: XAML Hot Reload 2.0. That's not actually the real name. It's XAML Hot Reload changes only mode, but we rebuilt it from the ground up using the same tech that the UWP and WPF Hot Reload uses, which is why you get UWP support. It's way faster. You don't have to save anymore. You get a live visual tree.
Smoking fast.
It is smoking fast. It's so nice. It doesn't blink and refresh your whole page anymore when you hit save. And we also consolidated some of the settings. So they've moved. If you're a big XAML Hot Reload fan, I'll show you where to find those. Hot Restart for iOS. We've been talking about this a little bit, but it's this close to being something we just turn on for everybody. And we are supporting Apple developer accounts of all types right now, which is great. It is still a preview feature, but I tweeted this out yesterday. I've been doing demos with Hot Restart now for like almost a year. This time last year, dev intersection, Hot Restart did not work 9 out of 10 times. This time, every time I ran through the demo, iOS was not the problem. Android was the problem if I ever had issues. Hot Restart has been great. I have not opened my Mac in weeks. So that's exciting. And of course, the XAML data binding diagnostics window. So our friend and lovely teammate, Dimitri Lyalin, has a whole XAML developer desktop client Xamarin talk later this afternoon or evening or morning, whatever time zone it is for you, later, day one, where he'll talk more about that. So next slide, Dave. Oh, yes, demo. Okay, the new .NET bot illustrations, really cute.
Yeah, they are. They're awesome. And you can apparently go create them yourself online. There's a maker. I tried to do one because I saw you and Jamie and others did it. Failed so miserably, I didn't even bother sharing it.
Love it.
My sense of bot style was just wasn't working for me.
There's a .NET bot for everyone. All right, let's flip over into my screen. Yes, awesome. Thank you, all the production team, Channel 9, running this behind this. You're all amazing. And this is where I started off my demo this morning. I have a UWP app on the side here. I can scroll through this carousel view. A little flaky, still in preview for UWP, but works pretty well, I have to say. And I have a custom drawn using the drawing APIs, a sun from an SVG, and some ellipses for these circles that tell me how much I have to water my plants, gradients, custom fonts, all things Dave is going to show you in a few minutes. But to turn on this new Hot Reload, you will no longer go to Tools, Options, Xamarin, Hot Reload. You now go to Debugging, Hot Reload. We've been promoted. And all of your Hot Reload settings are in the same exact place. So you can enable XAML Hot Reload for your WPF apps, your UWP apps, including Xamarin.Forms. This all used to be hidden in Debugging General, by the way. And then, of course, your Android and iOS apps. You can turn on XAML Hot Reload save action, so it'll only apply it on save. I've been turning it off because it's super fast. You have your WPF and UWP specific ones. This is where the magic happens, though. To get all these new features, to use this it's old tech stack, new to Xamarin tech stack, that uses the UWP stuff under the hood, you want to go to changes only mode. So 16.8, it's still technically preview, although I've used it for pretty much everything at this point. We are fixing some things with Shell, but 16.9, the next release, so 16.8 come out today. 16.9 preview came out today. That's when we expect this to kind of be the default for everybody. Let's talk about Hot Restart. It's in preview features. Enable Xamarin Hot Restart. Pretty simple. But how did I connect it to my Apple account? Well, the first time you run Hot Restart, it's going to prompt you to log in when you plug in your iPhone. You have to install iTunes because iTunes has the broker for how the phone talks to everything. But as soon as that's done, and I'll also show you how I use Reflector. It's just this nifty little app I downloaded. I go to my device, face unlock it, go into AirPlay. It bothers me to try and update. I ignore it. I screen mirror it. Perfect. All right. I'm going to stop the UWP app, and I'm going to switch over to iOS. So what's important here is you flip over to the iPhone CPU. Sometimes it'll default to iPhone Simulator because it thinks you're remotely paired to a Mac. I am not remotely paired to a Mac. My Mac is shut over there under the table. See, iPhone Simulator. Switch it to iPhone. Give it a sec. And my name will pop up on the iPhone. So it's right here. It's over the wire. And what this actually does is instead of rebuilding and repackaging and re-signing everything, it takes what has changed since the last time it was deployed and it puts it onto the phone within kind of an existing application, which is why it doesn't have to connect to the Mac to do all the full signing. It does kind of a provisioning version just on Windows. So like I said earlier, and this is something we always have to remind people, you do need a Mac to distribute this to people. This is just for the debug package. Like you don't do this in release mode. But if you're like me and you're just too lazy to open your Mac, or you don't have a Mac and you want to get started with Xamarin development now and see what it looks like on your iPhone, you can go ahead and use it. And what's cool is I can stop debugging and I still have the app on here. So now I'm not debugging it, but I can still open it, scroll through it, use it, play around with it.
Pretty cool. Your plants are alive? Plants are good?
I did prune one this morning. By prune, I mean take off all the brown leaves. So it looks alive now. Yeah, you can see I haven't actually put any real data in this yet. So we'll see. But this project's on GitHub. Maddie Leger 1, same as my Twitter handle. It's called Plant Lady. Very exciting. And I'm going to turn it over to David now that you have all these amazing productivity tools.
Cool.
About all of the Xamarin.Forms 5 goodness.
Sure. Thank you very much. That's really good stuff. There's your mic drop.
Thank you.
Peace out. The mic drop is one of my favorite bots to use for sure.
It's really good.
Okay, so let's get into what's new in Xamarin.Forms. Got a couple of slides, and I've got a fresh new demo that Javier and I have been working on. So last year, we shipped a lot. We shipped a lot of stuff. Every 6 weeks, we were pumping out a new release with accessibility. You've got the bindable layout, empty view, all this stuff on the screen here. We're going to touch on some of these things, but want to talk to you about, well, what's going on in Xamarin.Forms 5. So throughout the 4.0 series, 4.x, we've been doing all these experimental features because we have these new things that we're bringing to you because you've told us you want them, you need them, et cetera, et cetera. We're not dreaming these things up in a vacuum. And they were useful enough that we went ahead and put them in the product, but we also needed to get that feedback from you and figure out where the rough edges were, what features were missing, all that sort of thing that you might go through in a preview process, a pre-release process. But because we ship every 6 weeks, that's a pretty fast iteration cycle. So these things have been an experimental, and what we're doing is we're stabilizing. So before we go about stabilizing, there are a couple of these things that are still growing, expanding, if you will. C# UI extensions, media element, expander, as well as some PRs that had been sitting in the Forms repo that just had not quite gotten across the finish line and needed a fresh start, such as the camera view. So what we're doing is we're taking those with the help of the contributors and maintainers of those particular features and moving them to the Xamarin Community Toolkit, which is a project that has been around for quite a long time, but never really picked up a ton of traction. And now with the transition from .NET 5 to .NET 6 and what that means for Xamarin and mobile developers, we wanted to take the opportunity to reboot it because we're going to be releasing on a different cycle now when we get into the .NET 6 wave. So as we're making that transition to .NET 6, we wanted a place to put things. Xamarin Community Toolkit is it. It's supported. Engineers from our team are in there maintaining it. And in addition to, and the really exciting thing, so many people from the community. So what else can you get in there? Tons of the behaviors, the converters, the things that you pretty much copy from old projects to new projects, because you just need them. They're useful, but they're small. All that sort of thing is in here now. More stuff is coming. We're excited about. The PRs are amazing. Hacktoberfest turned up tons of wonderful things. So check that out. I want to give a demo now. And so I mentioned on my Twitter, and if you're not following us, our handles are on the screen. There it is. Whoop, and whoop. Follow us there. I mean, it's not like an official thing or whatever, but we do tend to communicate a lot of things there because it's so fast and so easy. So anyway, I mentioned, hey, you like cats. And everybody's probably like, no, actually, we like monkeys. And my poor monkeys are over here on the, over there on the, they're a little sad at me. But I went looking for monkeys and I couldn't quite find any monkeys. This is a picture that my daughter took. So my daughter got married this year. I was the father of the bride. I know I look 16, but I was the father of the bride. And she was at the mall and they were doing a pet rescue thing. She's like, oh, I really want this cat. And it's like, dude, you just got married in a pandemic. Settle down. Right. I mean, I know you have a dog, Maddie, but oh, and by the way, my daughter's name is Maddie also, but with an IE. So Maddie Legere is my work daughter, and Maddie is my Maddie.
That's me.
So anyway, I went and found some really nice design. I saw a comment earlier concerned about the ability to create good design in Xamarin.Forms. And as I was putting this demo together, I got to be honest, I was kind of like, why am I even bothering doing this? Because every time I went to Twitter, I would see somebody from the community saying, hey, look at this app I launched. Hey, look at this design I just made. And they're gorgeous. And I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? So this might be the last. I mean, there'll always be, good looking polishes, but I'm going to stop messing around with this stuff. I'm going to start building, I don't know, something else, collection view stuff. All right. So I exited that. Did I not? Yes. So, okay, cool. You got my screen. So here's my app, Los Gatos. Oh, and just like that, the Mac goes to sleep. That's hilarious.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's okay. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. Everybody was, not everybody, but I saw some really positive reactions during the keynote to the hot restart bullet point. And I know many developers prefer to work on Windows. That's fantastic. I'm bringing the balance. Here is my Mac. I like working on my Mac, especially since I got the new keyboard. So here's what we got here. We've got gradients up here at the top, some beautiful cards. We've got shadows going on here. I'm using Sharpnado for that. I'll share the link to the repo afterwards. You can go check out all the plugins that I'm using. We've got more down here. I'm using SVGs converted to PNGs. I'll show you how that works. We've got light, we've got dark, we've got both. That's sweet. We've also got this wonderful menu at the bottom. There you go. And then we've got some drag and drop going on here. So I can put things into the shopping cart by dragging to the bottom. I got a little animation that comes up there. So that's pretty slick. I can add other stuff just by hitting the buttons here and scrolling around. And then I can navigate to my detail view. I've got you see this kind of horizon line here. Hopefully that's coming across. It looks like it is. Using some polygon drawing for that. And then beautiful custom fonts here. Rounded corners on this stuff. Ooh, something else that I wanted to mention on the previous screen here is you see how these are the same images that you're seeing on the other screen, but they're cropped. You can now clip with shapes and paths. So that's really, really nice to be able to do that. So let's look in the code here at some of the other things going on. I guess maybe I should click into the into here and you can see we got some swipe view action going on with my mouse cursor. So we've got some really nice things happening here. I'm going to go back to the home screen. So first of all, brushes. So you can do solid color brushes. You can do linear gradient brushes. You can do radial gradient brushes. Here are the gradients that I'm using here. And I, of course, have a stop and I've got an offset. So essentially, and the docs are really, really helpful for this because I can rarely remember, like, what is your origin point, 0, 0? It is actually the upper left corner. And then, what are my points and how do I organize this stuff to get my gradient going diagonally? See how my gradient in this design is going diagonally from the bottom left to the top right. That's what's going on here. Starts at 0, 1. So every axis is from 0 to 1. So 0 is the upper left corner, 1 is the lower, and then 0 and 1, right? So those are my 2 points in the code here. And I do the same thing for all my different gradients and simply apply that. And to apply it, jump over here to the home page. So here are my cards. Those are the category cards at the top. So I have child views going on here. which was good to use because you want to make sure that all of these sorts of things work well with the new hot reload 2.0, which is a great name, by the way.
Thanks.
Obviously better than 1. Unless you're doing, what is it, 7-minute abs? And it's like, no, I'm going to do 6-minute abs. No, you can't do abs in 6 minutes.
No way. Never.
Actually, I'm probably horribly butchering that quote, but something about Mary. Is that what that was called? Anyway. So yeah, just as simple as putting your static resource in here. And there's my gradient. And then let's look at clipping because I have that here in the same view. Oh, I knew I was going to do that. It does not like my keyboard. I'm going to switch over to the Mac keyboard. So if we just look for clip, not that one. Not that one either. Oh, I just passed it, didn't I? Boop. Oh, Dave. Let's see here. We're doing an image.clip. There we go. For crying out loud. I got this. It's afternoon. I need my new coffee. Hang on a second. I got this.
Perfect with the custom mug.
I didn't even plan that, by the way. I was going to tell the story about my daughter, but I didn't even plan the mug. That was just fortunate. So you can clip anything. You can clip layouts. You can clip other controls, whatever. And you just provide the different geometry that you want to use in here. So I've got a rectangle geometry, and it's a rect. So it's X, Y, width, and height, right? And just apply that and you're off to the races. Now, something to be aware of is when you do this. And watching so many of the other presentations, they were so educational. I feel like I need to actually bring a bit more education than just showing things. So I don't know if that actually worked or not. Maybe, maybe not. Keep pushing buttons, see what happens. There it goes. Is to be aware of what the background of that particular visual element actually is. So by setting that background to the Alice blue, you can see where it lands. And the reason I mentioned that is because in particular with the input modes, you may find that you've clipped something, but it's actually sitting z-indexed higher in the stack than you would expect. And you're like, why are my clicks not working? It's because it's actually blocking it. So something to be aware of, which is why you see me setting this input transparent true to make sure that clicks get through it. Make sense? These are things that developers can spend days trying to figure out. Why is my click not working? And I know that from personal experience. All right, a couple more things here. I've got like 2 minutes left. So back to that horizon line. Go back here. Hakuna Matata. Look at that guy. Isn't he cool?
That's great. I love these pictures.
I know, right? Well, I went looking for the monkeys, and the monkeys all seem so mean. And I'm like, people like cats. And if you, here's a plug. So Alon Lipton is doing a session on mobile Blazor bindings, I guess maybe tomorrow. And he's got some cats. So he was partially also my inspiration in addition to my daughter. So this is the horizon line going from lower left to upper right there to kind of give it a little bit of depth. And you see that I'm actually binding some horizon points to it. So what I've actually done is I use Xamarin Essentials to tell me what's the actual density of the screen I'm on and the width of the screen so that I know what the measurement is, because it needs to be dynamic. If I just put a rect or a bunch of points in here based on physical points, it's not going to map out properly and fill the full width. So I just do that in code behind in C# because that's what C# is good for. And I use the data binding here. Of course, you can do all this stuff in C# without using any XAML if you wish. Swipe view. So going back to what we have over here on the click, 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 click. This guy. So like the delete, for example, or I guess I'm looking at favorite in the code. So let's look at the favorite. So it's the save. So swipe view can really just wrap whatever you want to make swipeable. And then you can design from there. So we've got each item is put inside of a grouping. So left item, right item, there's actually top and bottom as well. And then you put a bunch of swipe item views in there. You don't have to do all the layout. If you just want to do super simple stuff, text and an icon, that stuff's supported by default. But if you want to go crazy and do some really beautiful design because, hey, You can do whatever you want to do in Xamarin.Forms from a design standpoint. You can do all this right here. And then one last thing here, the settings screen. And I don't know if you'll be able to see this very well, but if you watch these icons down here at the bottom, whoop, that didn't really come through very well. Oh, you can kind of see it. They're actually doing a flip animation, which is really cool. So Javier Suarez Ruiz did that. I thought it was pretty slick. So here on the settings screen, I wanted to call attention to this guy here. So the image quality, and there's the artwork designer down there, Olga Angelos. This is actually, these are just radio buttons. And so the way in which we've done this is using control templates. So we've always supported control templates, but not necessarily directly on native controls, because as soon as you apply a control template to what had been a native control, you're now no longer technically in the native territory. You may still be using native view elements, but it's like you've now created a composite control. And that's something just to be aware of. We saw that developers were doing this anyway. So here's the image quality control template. This is up in my resources for my content view. And, whatever content, again, you want to put into that control template, because at this point you are in control. And then if we look at where this is being used, you can see that in my style property for my radio buttons, they're all taking the control template. So they're all going to use that same control template, but they all provide their own content, and that content gets placed within the template using the content presenter. If you're not familiar with control templates, that's a whole deep topic. You can go down that road. It's very cool, very powerful. Desktop developers, YAML developers, probably most familiar with that. So definitely check that out. And so that's really useful. And that's something that we're going to be investigating more and more as we approach .NET 6. And we are working on .NET MAUI, which reminds me, let's go ahead and click back over to my presentation so I can wrap up.
David, how much of that app is custom renders, custom code, platform specific stuff?
Well, Maddie, I'm super glad you asked, because none of it is custom renderers.
Oh.
It is just all Xamarin.Forms.
Oh.
Yep. Pretty slick, huh?
Pretty good.
Yeah, so we've been working really hard over the past years, really, but certainly it's coming to fruition now to bring as much as we possibly can into the cross-platform layer. So in Xamarin.Forms 5, you get all of this stuff here. I didn't even cover things like carousel view, which carousel view is actually in here in the tab view. That bottom navigation tabs is actually using a new control in the Xamarin Community Toolkit. We're going to work to integrate that with Shell. We've got some thoughts and some ideas, and by we, I mean Shane and Javier, not me. So they're the brains behind that. That'll be coming, and lots more stuff. There's an aka.ms there. I've got a bunch of other AKAs I'm going to throw out onto Twitter, which is one of the reasons I asked you to follow us, so that you can get the latest information. There's some Code Magazine articles and videos and things like that I want to put your attention to, as well as the December community stand-up for Xamarin and mobile.net, whatever we call it these days. We're going to, in December, kick off stand-ups around .NET MAUI and talk to you about the next iteration of what Xamarin's doing in .NET 6. So what's up next for us? These things. This is what we're working on. Team's been feverishly working on getting Xamarin.Forms 5 stabilized so that it can ship as a GA. But we're also working on these things. C# hot reload is in the works. Dimitri perhaps talks about that later. I don't know. But today we're mostly talking about things you can use today. Single project is another thing that we'll be talking about. So you'll hear a lot more about that stuff when you come to the .NET community stand-up for Xamarin. And with that, boom, there's my mic drop.
That was great. We didn't go way over time. I was convinced this was going to go like 10 minutes over.
No,
I was watching the clock.
Great with time.
I had my eye on it. I wasn't too far off.
Very good.
Yeah,
welcome back,
Mika. Thank you. Spectacular. That was amazing. Folks are really excited that you don't need a Mac to build these iOS apps. We have some questions that we can go through. We have a few minutes, so let's see.
That's a lot of questions.
It is. It is. Let's see. The first one is from Stuart. Is there an iOS emulator for Visual Studio?
Good question. So you can use your Mac. If you do have a Mac, you can pair to it over the internet, over your network. and use the simulator for Xcode on Windows. So it's called the Remote iOS Simulator. It's pretty cool. It works pretty well if you don't have an iPhone. But the hot restart thing, you need an iPhone for right now. If you're on Mac Xcode has the simulator, so that works out great.
Very nice. Another question from Jan: will Xamarin.Forms be replaced by MAUI?
So I will give that a yes and a no answer. Because it's not necessarily being replaced, it's the evolution of. So we're moving everybody forward. All your existing Xamarin.Forms code will come forward into .NET MAUI. Exactly what the shape of .NET MAUI will be when it ships is yet to be determined in full, because of course we're talking to a lot of customers, we're iterating on it, but the core of it is the work that we're doing now in Xamarin.Forms. Again, come to the December stand-up. We'll show you where the code is. We'll walk you through what we're doing in the code and how it's building the foundation for what .NET MAUI will become in full, and then how Xamarin will make this whole transition in such a smooth way that all your code comes forward, all your apps benefit from all the new innovations and the new work that we've been doing.
Cool, very nice. Next one is from Durgesh. Does Xamarin Shapes library use .NET BCL for geometry and shapes underline?
So it is using some, but I believe that there are still some legacy types and things like that, because Xamarin.Forms originally had its own rect and rectangle and things like that. So as we make the transition to .NET 6 and we start bringing everything into using the BCL, we're going to look at what types are duplicated and how we can bring it all together so that we are using exactly the same thing.
Nice. Let's see, we still have more time. So Aditya wants to know, will we get to see a visual designer like Blend for Xamarin.Forms in the future? Could be quite helpful for students and learners just entering the domain.
Good question. So I get this one a lot. If you've seen visual designers, Scott actually showed one, Scott Hanselman, one of the Scotts, showed one this morning in the keynote when he did a WinForms app. They're kind of a thing that people have come to expect, I think, with a lot of UI, like XML-based UI frameworks. Android Studio has one for AXML, all that stuff, Android XML. The reason we don't have one in Xamarin.Forms right now is because they're a lot of work and they're really difficult to do well when you're not targeting one type of device. So with Android, they have their set amount of DPIs. With iOS, they have their set amount of DPIs. And they can kind of guess the best layout for an iPhone or for an Android phone, usually targeting the most recent one, right? With Xamarin.Forms, everything's responsive. So you have to test on all these different device sizes. And it's very, very hard for us to do like a relative layout or a flex layout or any of that from a designer like Blend. So what we're doing instead of that right now, I'm not going to say never, but I'm definitely going to say that there are other things we're working on right now. We give you the toolbox so you can see all the controls and drag and drop those into your XAML. We give you hot reload, of course, so you can quickly edit and change things. You have the property panel. You're going to continue to have live property inspector, hopefully in a couple releases, so you can see it while the app's running. And oh my gosh, I had another one that I was going to forget. What else do we do? We're great. Oh, and we're looking at ways to make the certain Blend features we've heard of, like animations, transitions, all those things, to surface those in a way without doing the full Blend experience. Yeah. But yeah, answer is no, not right now, but let us know how else we can help.
Great. Thank you so much, Maddie and David. That was really informative, really great. We're going to say goodbye for now, and bye.